We do not.
We're live on YouTube.
And we're on our site. Good to go, Beat.
Oh, all right, I was clicking the wrong way. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this morning's Queensborough President Land Use Public Hearing. This hearing is being live streamed on www.queensbp.org. This hearing is being held both in person and virtually today. For those who wish to testify and haven't already pre-registered to do so, please visit www.queensbp.org/land use. If you are here in person and have not already registered to publicly testify, please see one of our planning staff now and they will assist you. Please note your opportunity to speak will follow those who are pre-registered. Written testimony is welcome from those who are unable to testify. All written testimony must be received by 5 p.m. today and may be submitted by email to vgarvey@queensbp.org or by conventional mail sent to the office of the Queensborough President at 120-55 Queens Boulevard, room 226, Kew Gardens, New York, 11424. I am joined by my planning director and staff, Vicky Garvey, Lisa Atkins, Sola Alo Sunday, and Malik Sanders. Lisa, please review how this hearing will proceed.
The public hearing shall be conducted in the following manner. The applicant will be called to give a description of the zoning action requested, an explanation of the proposed project, and respond to any questions from the chair. The floor will then be open for public speakers. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. A signal will be heard when 3 minutes have passed. When you are called, please identify yourself for the record and if you are formally speaking as a representative or member of a group. The calendar number or application you are speaking about, and whether you are for or against the item. Then you may begin your testimony. At the discretion of the chair, if there are a large number of speakers on any particular item, it may be put on second call. Speakers for and against that item may also be called to testify in an alternating basis. Please note that in order to testify at the virtual hearing, you must keep your camera on during your testimony and display your name accurately on Zoom. If at any point you have technical issues, please let the planning staff know in the chat and we will assist you immediately. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you, Lisa. You've just been advised on the proceedings of this hearing and how it will be conducted. Please keep your comments focused on the application you're speaking about. Please stay within the allotted 3 minutes. When you hear the signal, please wrap up and finish your comments. The chair reserves the right to ask speakers for clarifications or further information regarding the application or comments. Lisa, please call the first calendar item.
ULURP item number 220414 ZMQ. The applicant is Mikhail Kantius, Affected Community Board number 8. Applicant, please begin.
Thank you, Borough President Richards. Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. I'm joined by Amanda Iannotti of my office, as well as Kevin Williams from Equity Environmental. The rezoning before the Borough President today is the 7918 164th Street rezoning. The building in question is the one you see before you. On the ground floor of the building is the WIC program, which is a program run by Queens Hospitals with regards to women, pregnant women, and women with gestational issues. The second floor, which is really the subject of the rezoning, is currently a medical laboratory, which allows for the review and diagnosis of cancerous tissues and has been operating at the site for 33 years. Next slide. So what's the substance of the rezoning? The substance is that the zoned area is currently within a commercial overlay district, which is a C13 district, and we wish to rezone this to a C23 district. This is a very common type of rezoning, one that we've effectuated many times in the past, including in Queens. There are roughly 9 full affected lots and parts of 3 lots which would be affected. The underlying zoning of R4 and R5D would be unaffected. So the bulk of these properties remains the same to the extent they can be built 2 to 3 stories before the rezoning. They would remain with those development rights after. The important thing for our notes is that the C13 limits you to use group 6, which is commercial retail, and the C2 allows for a wider range of uses, including use group 9A medical laboratory, which is the subject of this application. Next slide. So with regards to the site, 7918 164th Street was acquired by Dr. Mikhail Kantius in 1990 and has operated without major incident for 33 years as a medical lab. Currently, the building, which is a 4,000 square foot building, consists of 2 stories. The first ground floor is use group 6B offices, again, Queens Hospital's WIC program, and the cellar is occupied by them as well. The second story is this use group 9A medical research lab, Sephora Diagnostic Labs. Diagnostic testing is done of tissue samples under microscopes for the presence of cancerous cells. No blood or infectious diseases are present at the site. The site is licensed both by the FDNY as well as the Department of Health. This rezoning will facilitate the legalization of an existing non-conforming use group 9A medical research lab on the 2nd floor. Next slide. So what do we know about the existing zoning district? You can see several things from the zoning map. The first is that the area of the rezoning is along Union Turnpike and 164th Street. Union Turnpike in this area itself is a wide thoroughfare of 140 feet. 164th Street is at 120 feet. So this is a major thoroughfare, a major intersection. The City Planning Commission in their own rezonings, and area-wide rezonings, rezones properties to C2 with great regularity. In most rezonings that you see from city planning, they don't even use C1 anymore. It's seen to be an outdated zoning district. The idea is that particularly in times of challenging economic standards, you want to be able to encourage businesses, and the use group 9 designation allowed by the C2 provides for more uses. For example, this medical laboratory, there's certain plumbing and hardware supply stores. It just allows for electrical appliance stores. It allows for a wider range of businesses so that you won't have businesses going dark, which is often the case these days. The second thing that you'll note from this map is you look at the circled area, which is the area of the proposed rezoning. To the north of that, about 3 blocks, you see 5 hashed marks along the 164th Street corridor. Those are existing C2 districts. So this is not an area in which C2 is unknown. In fact, it exists roughly 3 blocks north of the site in an R32 district, which is even less dense than the R4 and R5D underlying the existing property. So again, C2, very commonly used by city planning and private applicants, and allows for the medical lab at the site. Next slide. The next slide demonstrates a tax map, which shows with a little bit more specificity the nature of the rezoning. Again, 9 full lots and portions of other lots. I think the next slide, which is the area map, demonstrates a little bit better why the rezoning is particularly appropriate. Those orange colored, red colored properties within the dotted area, those are all existing commercial businesses. So every business that's in there is an existing use group 6 business, which will continue to be conforming pursuant to the rezone area. But this would allow for the medical lab on the 2nd floor to be legal. You know, we note that the medical lab has existed here since 1990. Since that time, Dr. Kantius has employed maybe 100 different medical doctors, lab techs, lab aides, and staff. So this is a job generating business, which is a real contributor to the surrounding community. Many local medical students and often medical aides, lab aides come to Dr. Kantius for training and then proceed to careers as lab technicians at larger medical facilities, including NYU. So I feel, and I think the applicant team feels, that Dr. Kantius is really a contributing member to the surrounding area. He should be encouraged, and we're hoping that the borough president supports that request. Next slide. The next slide and the ones that follow, feel free to page through these quickly. shows the property itself as well as the surrounding commercial portions. That 3-story building on the corner is an existing building. Again, nothing would be built or could be constructed differently under this rezoning. We're not talking about a change in development rights. We're merely talking about a change in use. The plans, which are now on the screen, demonstrate the existing layout. Again, the property exists along 164th Street. The cellar floor has offices as well as some accessory space. The ground floor is currently, as we said, Queens Hospital's WIC program is there and is operated there without incident for years. And the second story is this existing medical lab and medical facility. As was noted to the community board yesterday evening, we note that the use group 9A medical laboratory here is not one which would allow for noxious materials. And this is very important because we understand that C1 and C2 districts are complementary districts for low and medium density residential districts. We don't want any noxious materials or combustible materials which are not otherwise permitted to be introduced into this neighborhood. So what the use group 9A allows is very specific. Borough President, and I will just to read this off the chart, it's medical or dental laboratories for research or testing, which is what Dr. Kantius does, or the custom manufacture of artificial teeth, dentures, or plates, not involving any danger or of fire or explosion, nor offensive noise, vibration, smoke, or other particulate matter, odorous matter, heat, humidity, glare, or other objectionable effects. You have a doctor here who basically receives samples from biopsies of tissue. He congeals those samples. They're sliced thin and put under a microscope, and then he tests for the presence of cancerous cells. He is an institution. His offices are utilized and his services are utilized by local doctors as well as larger medical facilities in the area. And we hope that the borough president can support what we view as a worthwhile business at this property. And we're happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. So what made you do this all of a sudden?
Sure. The facility itself has been operating since Dr. Kantius has been in the building since 1990. And he operated there largely without incident for 20 years. He received FDNY permitting and approval because there are limited amounts of flammable materials at the site. And he's always complied with FDNY permits, paid his permitting fee every year, and basically operated without incident again for close to 20 years. In the last 13 years, the Department of Buildings basically has said, while we understand that you are permitted by FDNY, your zoning is technically incorrect. So their violations were issued that the medical laboratory here needed to be legitimized by allowing for a C2 overlay instead of a C1 overlay. There were discussions with the city. When we spoke to city planning, even their own planners thought that this may be okay under existing use group 6 medical office. It was eventually determined it could not be. So in the final analysis, the Environmental Control Board has said, okay, we have got these violations, which we will impose upon the property with the understanding that Dr. Kantius needs to now go and get this rezoned. So I think really what happened was when Dr. Kantius came into the property operating these medical labs, he was under the understanding that his use group would permit this. However, it was later determined that given the nature of the use group 9, he would have to come in and get the rezoning, which is why he's here now.
And as you said, there are no other development plans for this site, correct?
Yeah, there's no other development plans. One thing I would note, Borough President, is that if you go up those 3 blocks north on 164th Street to the existing C2 district, what are the uses that you get there? You get an animal hospital, a nail salon, a preschool, an appliance and electronics store, a laundromat, offices. These are all, standard use group 9 uses. This is nothing which is not common to the area. So again, no construction at the site because you don't get any new development rights through a C2 district, and the uses are uses which are already found in the area.
Okay, Vicky, do you have any questions?
Yes, I just have one follow-up question based on the land use committee meeting and the community board hearing last night. I think there was some confusion about an EPA violation that was tied to this address. And I know that there was some explanation given, but can you please reiterate and give some clarity on that issue?
Sure, I would defer to Kevin Williams of Equity Environmental, who's on the phone. Kevin, are you able to speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Borough President, Ms. Garvey, Kevin Williams from Equity Environmental. So yeah, we heard testimony from a citizen who had, a lot of paperwork. And she had mentioned, I could not hear her clearly initially related to this, what her question was on an EPA violation or that there was EPA information. I requested the material that she had. She presented to me what's called an EnviroFacts sort of brief. That's a repository online that indicates just a variety of different types of EPA regulated, identified types of uses at facilities. And so this site, in that what was presented to me was not a violation. It was a readout of a present EPA permit that basically documents the use of different types of generation of materials that EPA tracks. And for that, and actually in that database, the site is listed as a medical office, and the type of control permit or information contained in that EnviroFacts database indicated that there is what's called a large source hazardous disposal information management practice that EPA has. And so this type of control system is commonly related. Every single medical office, you go to CVS that has a drop box, little red box that's picked up every day. So this is exactly what that's related to, because so when the doctor creates his histology slides, you have to have bonding agents for the slides to create the stain. You obviously have tissue samples and that sort of thing that have to be disposed. And it's a standard operating procedure that those are under a licensed and bonded carrier of such controlled samples that are in cold storage and then deposited in a container for standard disposal. There was no record of a violation in the paperwork that was provided to me, simply a statement of the fact that they're registered and listed as doing this process as a part of their medical investigations.
Okay, thank you. That answered my question.
All righty. Do we have any members of the public who wish to testify?
We have no registered speakers.
All right. Seeing none, thank you all for attending our public hearing today. Our next scheduled land use public is June 30th, 2022, starting at 9:30 a.m. I want to thank the applicants and thank all who are tuning in and all who testified today. Thank you so much.